The stranger in OMORI is very much a stranger, appearing very dark and ominous, at least from OMORI's point of view, and seemingly always trying to guide OMORI towards the truth. The majority of the time it appears as a shadow-like figure in the form of Sunny's old friend Basil, but it is also seen in other forms such as his other friends or even his currently absent father. With so many different forms and so much mystery around it, it makes it really confusing to figure out just what Stranger is and what it is trying to achieve. So let us take a dive into the lore and try to do just that. So my first theory comes from the fact that most of the time it's in the form of Basil. So from that we can assume that the stranger equals Basil, or at the very least can be a representation of his thoughts. But you may say, bro, we can't just base this simply on the stranger's appearance. And I say, you're right, so let me introduce you to Black Space. In Black Space is the area where Stranger seems to be the most prominent. I mean, the whole area is literally infested with strangers. And with so many of them, you also get to hear a ton of dialogue from them, which is where my theory comes in. A lot of the dialogue seems to be Basil's thoughts being conveyed to Sunny. For example, the truth you've locked away. You must find it no matter what. You have to. For the both of us. You see, there's quite literally no one else in the game who would say this other than Basil. He's the only other one that knows the truth, that's alive at least. Adding on to this, Stranger also says, when you hid the truth, you sealed a part of me away with it. Considering this is in Sunny's mind, I'll assume he's referring to Headspace Basil, who was banished after remembering the truth. But yeah, this also shows that the Stranger and Basil or his thoughts are potentially the same. Also, another common symbol in OMORI is the white egret orchid, I think that's how you say it, which represents my thoughts will follow you into your dreams. And Basil is, the flower boy, so maybe this flower can represent Basil's thoughts following Sunny into his dreams. But also, it does it for Marie too, so I don't really know, but anyway. But also we can go beyond the dialogue to theorize all of this. So, we know this thing is referred to as Stranger, a mysterious shadowy figure, one OMORI doesn't seem to know. Now, consider what I said earlier. OMORI chose to banish and forget and or repress Basil after he mentioned the truth. After that, the closest thing we see to him is this shadowy figure that looks like him but is called a stranger. I think it's pretty obvious what's going on here. If the stranger is indeed Basil, OMORI has completely blocked him out of his mind, which is why he's considered a stranger and why he's a shadowy figure rather than just Basil. With all this being said, the theory of the stranger being Basil stands pretty strong with its appearance most of the time, the dialogue, and the fact that the Headspace Basil was banished, making this theory the most likely in my opinion. However, there are still some other possibilities. My second theory is that Stranger could be a representation of Sunny's true thoughts. This was going to be a bit more of a stretch, but hear me out. This time we can take into account dialogue from strangers all over the place, not just Black Space. The first thing to take into account though is the fact that this is all happening inside Sunny's own mind, whether it be peaceful thoughts of Headspace or the intrusive thoughts of something. The fact is, it's all thoughts from Sunny and they all have some kind of origin, right? And of course, the stranger that appears throughout Headspace and Black Space are some form of intrusive thoughts based on the fact that Sunny / OMORI has been trying to repress them this whole time. Now, let's look at the stuff that these strangers say. The ones in the trend of orange will say home is not here, or at least some form of that statement, basically implying Headspace is not home, and Sunny should not live there like he is now. The one in this room where his dad seems to be cutting down a tree says, "You are not my son." The ones all over Black Space say a ton of ominous stuff like, "Are you running out of time? Will you be able to find your way back, or will you finally lose yourself?" And finally, with great power comes great burden for yourself and for the people closest to you. Who are you protecting, and is it worth it? It's clear that a lot of this dialogue can be seen as thoughts of Sunny, thoughts of how he views himself and his situation. This entire period after the truth he's thought very low of himself, and these quotes support exactly that, meaning they could possibly be his own thoughts, especially since they're happening in his mind. It seems kind of like a very complicated form of introspection of him examining his own emotions and how he's reacting to them. That took too many takes. But anyway, yeah, it seems like a bit of a stretch, but hey, you never know. Maybe it's possible. You never know. And finally, the last thing the stranger could be is very simple. He's simply the stranger. Just an ominous being in Sunny's dream telling him how it is. Like a random dude in the street giving you life advice or something. Although this is probably the least likely for a very specific reason, which is that everything in Headspace seems to have originated from something in the real world. And for random being to suddenly culminate in Sunny's thoughts, especially one that seems to know the truth and everything else, kinda seems unlikely. Then again, it could be something formed out of many things like Sunny's trauma, Basil's thoughts, and many more things all combined into the embodiment of Sunny's trauma, or a representation of it, I should say. But you never know, maybe there was just some random person watching the truth go down, and we'll never know. So, in conclusion, Stranger is either Basil and or his thoughts, Sunny's own repressed thoughts, or some random being in headspace and black space. Most likely, however, has to do something with, Basil. After all, he takes his form 90% of the time. But hey, that is just my theory. And that is all I have for this week. I don't really have much more to add. Like, there's no really updates, no nothing else. That was the video. Those were the 3 theories. I hope you enjoyed. And also, discuss any other possibilities. Yeah. This is the end of the video. Now that I think, I've been doing this YouTube thing for like almost 2 years. Well, a year and a half now. And I still have no way to do a good outro. Okay, anyway, I'll see you guys next week.